stocks and anything else that I talk to, and in my blog or elsewhere. So this is my hobby. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't have specific education in finance. So you should be skeptical about whatever I say. And even if I suggest some platforms, you should always do your own research. And yeah, so don't just trust one guy who tells you what is good or bad. So in any kind of investments, you should be careful and do your own research as well. And yeah, so my main job, or what I do during the day, is I'm a CEO and co-founder at Max Traffic. So this is a digital marketing automation platform, and I have many clients from lending industry as well. So in some cases, I have some conflicts of interest. In some cases, I've written about platforms that are my clients. In some cases, I've written positive things. In other cases, I almost have lost a couple of clients because I was writing very critical stuff about them. So please take this into account as well. And then let's start then about P2P platforms and like general risks that I think apply to all of them. When you visit these platforms and their websites, like usually they always will talk about how transparent they are, how investments are safe, how there are so many different kind of guarantees, but the reality is a bit different. So in short, like most of the platforms are not regulated, and any kind of promises or rules that they might have in terms and conditions, or that they use in marketing. So these are just basic promises. So and these rules can change anytime. So one day platform will tell you that they have some kind of buyback guarantee. The next day this buyback guarantee will be removed. So one day they will tell you that there is some kind of insurance. The next day this insurance will be removed, and so on. So basically there are no rules, and platforms have full control of how they operate, and they can change any kind of conditions like anytime. The second thing that you have to take note is that all these guarantees and all these insurance claims, so they are just promises. So you don't really have any kind of guarantee on anything, or on any kind of claims and so on. So these are just promises. So these are the words that should be used instead of these big claims about guarantees. Then also, like some platforms have like real assets where they invest, for example, real estate platforms, or platforms that invest in businesses. So they will tell you that, okay, we have pledges, and if there are any issues, we can sell these assets, and these are the lifetime, these are the loan to asset values, and like everything is kind of secure. But even in these cases, when there are some kind of assets, and if you can check that these pledges are real, still everything is in the control of this platform, because this platform can sell the asset, take the money, and disappear. So it's like investors have no control over these pledges or over these assets. And yeah, so investing in P2P, it's a high risk speculation. So there is basically no safety. In short, it's like you're basically sending your money to just a random company, and if you get lucky, so this company or this platform will send you back your investment and maybe pay you some interest. But if that doesn't happen for some reason, that's it. So there is not much investors can do. So most of platforms are not regulated, and there is like a high risk of losing money or losing part of it. And yeah, so another thing is about this higher risk and same reward. So I like to make this comparison with bond investors. So if you as an investor invest in bonds, then typically the case is that if the asset is with higher risk, you get higher reward. So if it's very speculative investment, then you will get higher interest. In peer-to-peer platforms, that's not the case. So most of the P2P platforms, they focus a lot on marketing, but not so much about financials or safety or like rational things. So there could be the case where you get paid like 5% interest on your investment, and it's higher risk than getting 12% from a different platform. So these rates in some cases don't make any sense, but that's just something that's like there in P2P space, and you have to be aware of this. And yeah, and so the last thing that you have to take note is that the situation can change like any time as well. So for example, Mintos worked fine for 4 or 5 years. Like all the investors were super happy. There were only a couple of problematic cases, but then suddenly in 2020, like Mintos went from zero or close to zero problematic loans to 200 million euros in frozen money. So even if a platform works fine for a while, it doesn't guarantee that the situation will be the same later. Yeah, and I sometimes get this question. So which are safe platforms, or which P2P platforms do you recommend, and do you think that my investment will be safe? So my typical answer would be that if you want a safe investment, then you should look elsewhere. So it's not P2P. If you are worried about safety, then just don't invest in these platforms. So maybe the situation will improve in next couple of years, but right now it's really chaotic and it's like Wild West. And yeah, so here I would like to mention some examples of failed P2P platforms, so that if for those that are not aware, so that you can see the real impact of what can happen if you invest in suspicious P2P platforms. So last year, not last year, at the end of 2019, Quetzal was the first Baltic platform that was shut down. It had many fake projects. There were very strange guarantees from mystical Asian investors. There were like high interest rates promised and so on. So the platform looked really shady, and it shut down. And now there are investigations and a lawsuit active and so on. And then after Quetzal was shut down, then later in 2020, several similar platforms shut down as well. So then Investio, Monetera, Wisefond all fell out. And all these 4 platforms were maybe kind of connected with some projects, and they were very similar. So all of them were registered in Estonia, but the teams were from Latvia, and they all invested in business loans and promised like 20% returns or something like that. And then later, Grouper shut down as well. So this is a platform also from Latvia, but they say that they are registered in Ireland, and they have one company in Latvia as well. And this was so far the biggest loss to investors. So Grouper was kind of a marketplace similar to Mintos, but the difference with Grouper was that they had lower quality loan originators, and some of these loan originators were connected to grouper founders as well, and some of them were even fake, like completely fake companies. And a lot of money was just sent to Belarus and then invested in also kind of fake real estate development projects. And yeah, then in the end we also have Fast Invest. So this is an interesting case that this platform is still kind of active. It is based in Lithuania, but I'm not sure if they advertise there. So more likely they are trying to get investors from other European countries. And so they started having issues in March, April of 2020 as well. And since then, investors have been waiting for 6-7 months to process their withdrawals. And just recently, Fast Invest also added a limit how much you can withdraw from the platform. So not only you have to wait for 6 months to get your money back, but you are limited also to withdraw like 50 euros per month or something like that. So so these are the platforms that already have either shut down, that have either in some cases criminal cases and lawsuits and so on, but there are many questionable platforms that are still active. And yeah, so one platform that I also wanted to mention is AgriCab. So this is a platform from Somalia. I think this is the craziest case of what has happened in P2P so far. So the platform basically offered investors to invest in camels in Somalia. And the idea was that you would kind of buy a camel and get profit from the milk that is sold there, and then this platform would buy your camel back. And of course, later, like some investors like believed this story, invested their money, and then at some point later, the website was just shut down. And I guess as it's Somalia, so I don't think there will be any lawsuits or anyone trying to get back their money. Like it's completely lost. And yeah, so in this also, like a lot of pain was caused to investors from Mintos side. So Mintos is the biggest P2P marketplace in Europe, based in Latvia. In comparison to these other platforms that I already mentioned, so Mintos is not a fraud or itself, but it just has like a lot of loan originators, and many of them are low quality. And when the COVID hit, so many of these loan originators run into issues as well. So as you can see in this chart, so there are almost like 100 million investment at risk from these suspended and defaulted loan originators. And the situation is improving a bit in last 4 months or so, but still this amount that is frozen is really big. And according to Mintos' own estimates, they think that they might recover about half of that. So about 50 million might be lost, but I think in the end they will recover probably less, so maybe 30 million or something like that. But that is something that we will see only in the next couple of years. And yeah, another thing that I wanted to mention are P2P bloggers. So I'm kind of a blogger myself as well, but I try to be a bit more critical about these investments and platforms that I review. And in the beginning, I tried to understand like how good are the average P2P bloggers, especially those that advertise all these fraudulent P2P platforms. And so I took like the first 4 P2P platforms that were shut down, and went through these blogs and calculated how much money they had lost. And on average, these bloggers had lost 20% of their investments just from investing in 4 platforms that were shut down. And this is not counting all the other suspicious platforms that might still shut down later. So in the end, their average losses will be probably higher. So this is something you have to take into account when you read like super nice reviews about how you should invest in this or that platform. Very often it is the case where these bloggers recommend very shitty platforms just to get their affiliate commissions. But in the end, if they invest in these platforms themselves, they actually are losing money. So if you follow them, you will probably lose money as well. And yeah, so here is a list of what I would call questionable P2P platforms. So these are platforms that are still active, but I would consider them either really risky or bad investments that very likely will generate you losses if you invest in these platforms. And I will try to go through some of these examples and just share why I think that that might be a bad investment idea. For example, TFG Crowd. So they had, this is a platform also a bit similar to the first 4 platforms I mentioned that were shut down, but this one is still active and also has very suspicious business ideas or business projects where investors can invest money. And one of their projects was a restaurant in England, and so investors invested 35,000 euros there. And in TFG blog, there was a really positive review how it's a legitimate business at the peak of their growth stage. But then when you looked at the company, so it turns out the company was shut down like a couple of months before this campaign. Then another project by TFG Crowd was real estate properties. So here TFG investors invested in a company called Lex Group that was actually owned by the same TFG owner. And in the end, they kind of have to, they are promising guarantees to themselves, and basically you are investing in one guy that is representative of a real estate company of this platform. So there's a huge conflict of interest there. Another suspicious project by the same platform was a company that, according to their financial reports, had no employees, 4,000 euro in assets, and they raised 170,000 euros for promotion, for doing ads and advertising their business. But according to reports, well, basically there is no business. Yeah, I already mentioned Fast Invest, so this looks like just another Ponzi scheme. So there is no information where investor money is invested. You have to wait 6-7 months to process any withdrawals, including the money that is not actually invested. And just recently they added a limit how much money you can withdraw per month. Then another platform called Quanloop from Estonia. Again, investors have no information where money is invested. They just show these strange squares and then show some numbers, but there are no reports, no company name, nothing. Like you don't know anything about the borrower, if it's even real. So and then yeah, so I've written a lot recently about a company called IBAN Wallet, and this might be the next really big platform that will take a lot of investor money when it shuts down. So this is at the left side. You can see the address where they were registered. It's in Latvia, in Riga, and this company is owned by a guy from Afghanistan. It has zero revenue, zero employees, but that's what's written in their site, that this is IBAN wallet, is this Latvian company that's completely empty shell. And when you, as investors, send money to them, you get to see an IBAN account, but you don't really know to which company or which person you are sending the money. And the platform itself doesn't answer to any questions, so they just focus on marketing. And they are being investigated in Latvia, in Mexico, in Estonia, and yeah, in Estonia they have one company that at the end of 2019 said they have about close to 50 million in investor money, and again, so no information where money is invested, and so on. So this looks like another platform that will shut down, I think this year. Then we have one platform from Germany called Juicy Fields. So they advertise to investors opportunity to invest in cannabis, to grow your own plants, and you can kind of buy plants, but when you look at more details, you see that they have fake partners, they have no licenses. You see that the CEO of company owns like 0 shares of it, so fake reviews also looks really suspicious. And then very recently a new platform was launched called Dena Invest, and in this case it was interesting that all the people you see in the pictures, their support staff were actually images generated by computer, so these are not real persons. And they also advertised that they are featured in Forbes, and when you visit Forbes, you see that it's a paid article. So also this kind of action by them doesn't look really, doesn't inspire any confidence. And then another new platform, Crowdlendio. So this is also based in Estonia, but owned by a Latvian guy. And it's interesting that the same guy who owns this platform is also a borrower on different platform called Crowdstore. And he borrowed more than 1 million euro and hasn't paid it back, but removed himself from the company and is now launching a new platform. So he cannot pay back his loans in one platform, but decided that it's a good idea to launch another one. And yeah, so Bondor, I think many people know about this. It's one of the oldest P2P platforms, but they also do a lot of interesting things. So the way they account for investor earnings is very shady. So when you stop investing there, your investments suddenly turn to negative, and their portfolio quality is really bad. And basically, if you invest in Bondora, you can expect that you will get negative returns. And then Viventor. So Viventor is a P2P platform that was bought by Atlantis, bought by a company that also owns the largest loan originator on Viventor called Atlantis Financiers. And this Atlantis Financiers is the highest rated loan originator, but it's not paying back investors money for more than 3 months right now. And investors are selling these loans in secondary market with 50%, 60% and more larger discounts. So it's a huge disaster, but the platform is not really reacting to it. And there's also like a huge conflict of interest. This platform is not even releasing its financial reports. And yeah, so I also wanted to mention some platforms that you could consider that I think are a bit better. So it's not like all P2P spaces is a complete disaster. So Via Invest and the State Guru are platforms that I think are quite okay. In case of Via Invest, so these are short-term consumer loans. This platform has worked so far really well for several years. They provide proper financial reports, and there are no conflicts of interest as in many other cases. And in Estate Guru, so that is one of the few real estate platforms that has really good track record, hasn't lost investor money yet, and yeah, so their pledges and collateral is quite good. And when projects run into issues, it's risk is taken mostly by real estate developers, not investors. And another two platforms that you could consider, but you should be a bit more careful. One is Twino. So in Twino, you could get about 10% return if you invest in loans that have no currency exposure. But most of the loans there have this currency exposure, and you get maybe a higher interest rate, but if the value of this other currency drops, then you can still lose money. So you need to be careful about that. And then in case of Mintos, so it is the largest P2P marketplace. It has very liquid secondary market, so it's from one side like really good platform. So it's technically advanced, and I like to use it myself as well. But again, so I mentioned already that there are about 100 million euro in frozen money, and that's because many or most of these loan originators there are very low quality. And but the good thing is that if you filter them out and you select only a couple of what I would say are the best loan originators, then you could consider Mintos as well. And yeah, so one alternative to P2P investing is investing in bonds. Here you can see consumer lending companies that have issued bonds as well. And these are regulated investments, and sometimes can provide even higher returns than these P2P platforms. So if you invest larger amounts, so bonds would be safer way to do that, and yeah, the returns are okay as well. That's it from my side. So if you have any questions, then I would be happy to answer them.